There's such a big community around building and modding your own gaming PCs, but did you know that a lot of other communities have popped up over the years, like gaming keyboard communities?
Our friends at Asus were nice enough to sponsor this video to teach you guys the basics when it comes to building and also buying a premium mechanical keyboard, because the mechanical keyboard space can be kind of scary. There's a lot of buzzwords, a lot of choices you could make, and today we're going to try to simplify all of that for you, so when you purchase your keyboard, whether it's an Asus ROG Azoth keyboard or any gaming keyboard, you need to understand what you're looking for and what you're buying. So let's not waste any more time. We're going to dive into the basic parts of mechanical keyboards. What can you customize with them? And we'll talk more about those options, and then we'll dive into other keywords and buzzwords that you all should know about.
So before we get into the internals of a keyboard, let's just talk about the parts that you guys can actually see, such as the keycaps and of course the housing or case. Start off with the keycaps. So the keycaps are the part that you actually type on, not to get confused with the switch, and they can come in a variety of materials, but the main two you're going to see are ABS plastic and PBT plastic. Now ABS is the most commonly used plastic. PBT is often preferred just due to the fact that it can be more durable and it can have a nice matte finish to it. Sometimes you'll even see slightly textured finishes too for a little bit of extra grip and stability. Now next up you have profiles of keycaps. So you can have completely different layouts when it comes to keycaps, where you can have them kind of curved like a smiley face. Sometimes they just slope straight down. Some people even like kind of a flat design. And with the lettering, of course, you can have a kind of standard design like this. You can also have south facing, where the letters are on the southern side of the keycap. You can even have ones that don't have letters at all. And you can even have transparent lettering where the actual RGB shines through the keycap. And to keep it simple, most keyboards you're going to see out there are going to be the standard cherry layout, but there is tons of other options to choose from.
Now let's talk about the housing of the keyboard, or could be also referred to as the chassis of the keyboard, is basically what everything goes into. Now the main thing you need to know about when it comes to the chassis or the housing is the material that you're going to be using with it. Now this one right here is a basic plastic keyboard. It is very popular to see plastic chassis, but if you're looking for something that's more durable than plastic and one that has a much more premium feel, aluminum is a good choice to go with. They are, again, more premium, and a lot of higher-end keyboards do use aluminum chassis, and then you can add things such as weights to make it even feel more premium and more sturdy on your desk, but that is something that most people don't need to dive into too much. Really, the main things you need to focus on is either a plastic housing or an aluminum housing, depending on what kind of budget you're going for your keyboard.
All right, next we're going to talk about switches. This is a long topic because there is so many different types of switches, and people even often build their own switches, but we're going to talk about first the switch that's inside of this Azoth keyboard. And the switch is actually inside of this Asus Azoth keyboard is the ROG NX Snow V2. So this is a linear box style switch. It's a box switch because it has the standard cherry profile in the middle, but then a little box on the outside, which can help with stability. It can also determine certain types of keycaps that you have to use as well. But most standard cherry keycaps, like this one here, for example, will fit right on a standard or a box switch. Now, I'm not even going to get into all the different types of switches because there's probably thousands, but you have three main types. You have linear, tactile, and clicky. So of course with linear, smooth, not really any bump. There's gonna be no tactile feedback. With tactile, you're gonna have a tactile bump, and then with clicky, you're gonna have a tactile bump and a lot of click to it. But there's just so many different types. And of course, you can also have shine through. So that's gonna be like this guy here, where you have LEDs that are gonna shine through. But that's determined by the motherboard. And honestly, you're gonna notice most switches will have a cutout for LEDs to shine through. It's pretty rare to find them without that. And now with the mechanical switch, you're basically gonna have a few components. You have the stem, you have the spring, and you have the housing. There's really not much to it. And then you also have like the leaf, which is the part that actually makes contact. There's a little spring inside of there. And of course, you can have different types of travel length. You can have different bottom outs. You can have different levels of force actuation. And usually all those are laid out really nicely when you're buying switches. You'll actually see them from the manufacturer. Now you're always just gonna have two prongs for your actual switch, but then in terms of like the stabilization, how it goes in, you're either gonna have one piece of plastic in the middle, or like this Asus switch here, you'll have three, which adds even more stability, makes it a little bit stronger. And overall, the switch is gonna kind of determine a large part of how the keyboard's going to sound and feel when you're gaming and typing. And there's not really switches that are better than another. Don't let people tell you that, because it's really just about feel and what you like in terms of, do you want a ton of sound or do you just want a little bit of sound? Now you may notice here that this tiny little switch does not have the extra prongs in the back. You're like, how does it actually connect? Well, this is a Hall effect switch, which is something we're gonna briefly talk about. These keyboards that we have featured today are just standard mechanical, which has been around forever. Now, Hall Effect, although it has been around for a long time, is now starting to really come up in the gaming community because it has some of the fastest response time out there. What's cool about them is they're analog, kind of like a controller, so you can actually have different levels of actuation, while with the mechanical switch, you basically just have on and off. With a Hall Effect switch, you can actually get total control over the range of actuation. So it's a pretty cool, newer technology in the keyboard space.
Now let's get inside these keyboards. Heck yeah. So the main thing you need to know about the inside of a keyboard is that it can really impact the acoustics, what kind of keyboard you're going with in terms of when you're building your own. You need to know what kind of stuff to put inside your keyboard to be able to determine things like what size keyboard you're gonna have, which we'll touch on more here in a minute, if it's a wired or wireless keyboard, and what you want the keyboard to sound like. You can go really crazy like this keyboard and have 5 different layers to really make this an awesome typing and gaming experience, and each one of these layers will change how this keyboard feels. Let's go over some of the main layers you should know about. The first layer is a CNC machine aluminum top cover, which is for aesthetic purposes. The next layer is silicone gaskets, which allow for a more cushioned and pleasant typing feel than normal traditional mechanical keyboards. Again, a layer that improves on the entire experience of the keyboard. Next up is what's called an FR4 positioning plate, which provides a moderate balance between flexibility and stiffness to dampen those high-pitched noises you might hear from budget mechanical keyboards. When it comes to cheaper mechanical keyboards, they normally don't have this feature, which tends to bring in like the tinniness and kind of rattle sounds that you do hear from those budget options. Now, particular to this keyboard, we have a pour-on plate foam, which effectively absorbs pinging and hollowness noises, which cushions every keystroke, reducing the impact to the PCB, which is right below this. And speaking of that PCB, this keyboard comes with a south-facing PCB that optimizes keycap compatibility and improves lighting and aesthetics. Now, it's important to talk about PCBs because that can determine a wide range of factors on what your keyboard actually is, especially if you're building one. For example, certain PCBs can be hot swap or require you to solder your key switches in. They also have wired and wireless options, whether you're looking to build a wireless keyboard or a wired keyboard or a combination of both with Bluetooth built in. That's normally known as like tri-mode connectivity options. That is normally what you need to be looking for with a PCB. You also need to look into RGB lighting and a bunch of other different factors when picking out a PCB. For this keyboard, we have a south-facing PCB with the RGB lighting. It also has the tri-mode connectivity built in and has all the features we need in this form factor. And with this keyboard, we have another 2-layer pour-on dampening foam beneath the PCB to once again absorb vibrations and enhance the stability of the keyboard when using it. We also have a silicone pad below that, which eliminates echoes and provides a flat surface for the dampening layer. Overall, there's a lot of layers in this keyboard. You could have this many in pretty nice mechanical keyboards, or when you're building your own, you could have far less. Depending on what kind of goals you want to achieve and the budget you're looking at, there's a lot of different layers you can add to mechanical keyboards. Before we move on to other important parts of this keyboard, this would be a great time to tell you some of the cool things that Asus included on the Azoth X when building out this keyboard. Firstly, the battery life. This was a significant focus for Asus as they wanted to showcase that this keyboard gets way better battery life than most custom-built keyboards when running the following settings. If you run with the RGB off and OLED display off, you can get over 3,500 hours on Bluetooth connectivity mode and 1,600 hours on 2.4 gigahertz. For those looking for a long-lasting battery on their mechanical keyboard, this is a really cool feature. They also opted for an online software utility, which we love to see for mechanical keyboards, called ROG GearLink. There's no need to download a dedicated software for your keyboard. Just access this URL with the ROG Azoth plugged into your computer, and you get full access to customize the keyboard to your liking, perform software updates, and more.
Now, attached to the PCB is something called stabilizers as well, and these aren't that, well, they're important, but it's not that important in this overall scheme because it's only on a couple to a few switches. Typically, the spacebar, the enter, and then oftentimes the shifts, if they're full-size shifts, will have these little metal bars with almost what looks like extra switches, but it's basically to help with the key rebound and make sure that it doesn't have wobble, because when you have that little switch right in the middle of that spacebar, naturally if you press it from the side, it's going to want to go down to one side. So stabilizer helps make sure that it goes down smoothly and rebounds smoothly.
Now that we talk about the inside of what all keyboards have when it comes to the layers and things like that, let's go and talk about different layouts that you can purchase. Whether you're buying a pre-made keyboard like this or building yourself, there are different layouts that are presented as percentages to determine what kind of keys you actually have on your keyboard. First up, we have a 100% or a standard full-size keyboard. This keyboard from Asus is a good example of that. It does give you access to your numpad. You have your full function row, you have your full number row, and your normal characters that you would see on a traditional keyboard. Now, what we we've been doing with keyboards recently is shrinking them down to fit desks much nicer, and we have something like a 75% keyboard or a 10 keyless keyboard that eliminates the numpad, making it a much more compact design because, again, most of you gamers out there aren't using your numpad. There are some people out there who do, and if that's the case, you want to go 100%. But 75% is a very popular form factor because it's slightly more cut down and eliminates stuff you normally wouldn't use. Now to the more traditional layouts for gaming nowadays. A lot of people are looking for 65 and 60% keyboards because they're super compact and only give you what you need for gaming. This one right here is a 65% keyboard, but if you want an idea of what a 60% would look like, you probably would get rid of all these keys over here and shift things down, and normally they won't have arrow keys as well. Normally those are on a function layer, but 65 is very popular for those who just want a very compact keyboard setup. As you can see right here, here's a 65 versus 75. Again, the jump from full size to 65 10 keyless isn't as big as going from a 75 to 65, but it does still save space on your desk and give you a much more gamer aesthetic. It's very popular in the gaming community to go with these size keyboards. Now, there are some off-the-wall freaky ones like 40% or even some 20% layouts, which most people aren't going to be using, but if you're new to the mechanical keyboard space, you really just need to know, do you need a numpad? Go with a full-size keyboard. Do you not need a numpad and maybe you want to have access to some macros on the side? Then you want to go 75% or 10 keyless. But if you just want the most compact keyboard that makes sense and still has all the functions you need to just use a normal computer, because some of these keyboards might limit you from being able to do certain things in Windows, you're probably going to want to go with a 65% keyboard because it's a really awesome layout for a compact gaming design.
Now, of course, like we said earlier, you can actually move up to a Hall Effect gaming keyboard, which Asus does offer, and you get some really cool features, such as speed tap mode, which is basically the same as SOC-D, to where it'll take your last input priority so that you can do some really cool strafing moves. And then you can also get a really cool feature called Rapid Trigger, which is useful in competitive gaming, and when activated, keys reset at 0.1mm lift, letting you enter repeat inputs faster. Think skill spamming. And while Hall Effect keyboards do have some really cool features like that, actually some that we haven't even talked about, do keep in mind that some games will consider them cheating, so be very careful.
So thanks again to Asus ROG for sponsoring today's video and helping you all learn more about gaming keyboards. If this is your first experience with a mechanical keyboard, whether you're looking to build your own keyboard or just buy a keyboard, you're going to be more informed on what you're getting when you're shopping. And if you want to shop for any of Asus ROG's mechanical keyboards, whether you're looking for a Hall Effect keyboard or the Azoth X feature in today's video, check those links down below.
But as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's lesson. If you did, make sure you check out our other two YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/ToastyBros, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Now, did you know that if you go to PC Bros, actually walk in person, you could probably buy either one of these keyboards here along with most of the things featured on this channel.
PCBros.tech, and if you want to buy a gaming keyboard, you can come in person to our physical store, because you know what, if you learn anything from today's video, actually trying keyboards is the best way to determine what kind of keyboards you like. Walk into our store today and try some of the keyboards we have to offer. Use code ToastyBros on checkout. You will save 3% on your next purchase. See you guys later. Bye-bye.